Okay, so you've done 6 HVAC20 free quote visits,
Yes.
and you sold 5 of them, and you think it's likely that you're going to be selling the 6th.
Right.
This one
Yeah. So
has
this,
ended up being very complicated.
right. So this one is, this latest one was a proactive lead. He was getting
15-year-old
multiple
equipment.
15-year-old, 12-year-old equipment in bad shape. Yeah, I think he was having some trouble with one of them keeping up. And so he knows time's coming. He's getting ready to retire soon. So he's trying to get his house in order before he does that. This is his forever house.
Forever house.
Yep. So called him.
2,700 square feet.
2,700 square feet. The
Two
house built
two-ton
in
pieces of equipment in the attic.
two 2 tons. Found out later on, and at some point in the conversation, that his house was built as an Energy Star or energy efficient home at the time. It's like 95 or 99. Can't remember which right now, but um,
Labels without meaning, but yeah.
right. So anyway, somebody made an effort to try to make it a little tighter, and the equipment was smaller than what you would typically see in the market for a house like that. From what I see, it's usually way oversized from that. So
Right,
might
right,
would
right.
see
It's 2,700 square feet. Surprised that it doesn't have 6 or 8 ton on it.
right. So you normally would see, you know, easily at least a 3-ton upstairs and a 2.5 downstairs at minimum. Is usually what I see. And he had 2 2 tons, so that was interesting. And then anyway, so I told him I was going to send him the comfort quiz. If he can fill that out, that'd be great. A couple of videos you could watch that would be helpful for you in our conversation. And he's like, "Oh, well, I don't really have any comfort issues." I said, "You don't have any comfort issues?" He's like, "No, just um we just have I have some dust issues that I want to take care of." And anyway, so I sent him the link, and he didn't fill it out. And then something happened with the original appointment, and he had to reschedule. And I had talked to him again, and I mentioned to him again about the comp quiz. And by the way, I think I ended up texting him this stuff because he didn't have a uh, he didn't have an email, not to give to the customer, to the office. What he said. And anyway, so I sent it to him, and this time he said he would watch the 2 videos. But I get to the house, and he's like, "Jason, I'm sorry, I didn't have time to watch those 2 videos." That's the first thing he said to me when we came in. And then I said, "Well, no problem. Someplace where you can sit down for a few minutes." And he's like, "Absolutely, come in and sit down." And we started talking about, I was asking comfort questions, and he's like, "I don't need that real high SEER, that 22 SEER or 18 SEER. I don't need all that. I just, I've got a 10 to 11 SEER right now. If I get really the minimum, or the 14 SEER or the 15, that's for all I need." I was like, "No problem." So if we put in that 14 SEER or 15 SEER, and it's not as comfortable as you are right now, would that be a problem for you? It's like, yeah, how's that even possible? And so I mentioned to him I actually have a slide that shows a war on things that work. And I explained that slide that my mother gave me, and it's an article that Whirlpool is talking about appliances, and it's the latest war on washing machines. And it says in the article that the Department of Energy would like to change the efficiency standards for washing machines by mandating that the new machines use considerably less water. And what Whirlpool says in that article is that those mandates would force manufacturers to reduce the cleaning performance, makes the appliances more expensive, each cycle takes longer, the detergent costs more, and in the end, the clothes aren't as clean. And something triggered that in his mind. He's like, that's just like that dishwasher I just bought. That thing doesn't clean the dishes and won't, and they're never dry.
You got to run it twice.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got to run all of our appliances twice, so they're going to last half as long. I mean, it's wonderful what the government's done to us.
So he could relate with that. And I said, so they've done the same thing with air conditioners. So the ones that are real high SEER, they've put this in a factory and they've made the coils not as cold, so they can get those ratings. And so what happens is it doesn't do as good of a job as dehumidifying your house. It'll move that thermostat temperature real fast, but it doesn't run long enough to remove any moisture. And so you're not going to be as comfortable as you are right now. And then he started asking more questions. So, I mean, he says, and I made, was taking notes here. He says, comfort is important to him. I said, okay, well, let's start with do you work from home? He's like, yeah, I work from home all the time now. It's like, okay, where's your office? He says, it's in the bonus room over the garage. I said, well, how's that room? He said, it's uncomfortable. Okay. So what you need maybe is mixing. I don't know. It depends.
Mixing might help.
Yeah, mixing might help. So, if at some point in the conversation, I told him that, we could do the comfort consult where we can do a blower door and we can find out exactly what's going on with that room. But if we had better equipment that would do a better job mixing, that might help that room.
Yeah, we would like a better understanding of what's going on in that room. We'd like a better understanding of what's going on in that room. And a blower door and thermal image camera will help us probably get a better understanding of what's going on in that room. And if it doesn't, there's more tests we could do after that.
Yeah,
but
I need to write
usually
that down. Yeah, I need to write that down. That's good. So, and then he also mentioned the dust. He's like, the dust is ridiculous down on my hardwood floors. And so I was wanting to replace the ductwork. I said, okay. And so if we replaced all your ductwork and your dust issue didn't go away, would you be mad at me? He's
You
like,
barely,
well, yeah.
You Robert barely him. Robert's always, and Johnny Escobar. Both of those guys are like, I just don't want you mad at me.
All right. He's like, well, yeah. I said, well, mate, what if your problem isn't your ductwork? Maybe you have a filtration problem. So maybe you need better filtration. And if better filtration doesn't solve your problem, then you have additional options. Then you could take a look at replacing the ductwork. And so he was all about that, and he was starting to dig in a little bit, and at some point we were talking about mean radiant temperature. And I said, look, I'm not trying to get too technical. He's like, oh no, I appreciate this. Nobody's explained this to me. I'm getting a really good education here.
So I want to stop here.
Mhm.
you're having a nice time and learning this and learning how and getting some experience and practicing how to communicate things to the homeowner. But I'm a little bit concerned, and I want to point that out to everybody who might be watching, that it's not our job to educate the homeowner at the free quote. It's our job to give them the tools so they can educate themselves. And HVAC20 has tons and tons of content. And then what Nate Adams has done is he's condensed a lot of that content down into very small bites. So the homeowners can go to Nate the House Whisperer. They can go to HVAC20. There's tons of content there. And we would like to help salespeople avoid having to spend hours educating the homeowner. We want them to be in a position where the homeowner's been pointed in the right direction. If they don't self-educate, that's really their problem, not yours. So I love that you're having fun with this and having a nice time with the clients, and you're having nice relationships now, and they're very grateful. But by the same token, it feels to me like we're going to have to build a scenario where, for example, this is a free quote. I'm going to help. Part of the service that we're providing is we're going to help you build your ideal specification, and then narrow in on the specification that you can best afford. So in other words, this is your ideal specification. It's all the smiley faces. It's more than you can afford. So which smiley faces are you most willing to let go of so that we can get to your budget? And then you build one quote. And if they ask for more than one quote, you're going to say to them, so Mr. Smith, our policy is to help people come up with their best fit specification and then bid to that. And this is your free quote. You get one of them. And then, so we really need to help you come up with the best fit specification. Then you can go get apples to apples quotes from the other guys. You can, those guys that came and gave you bids for crappy single stage equipment, you call them back and say, well, now I have a specification for you to bid to. And you can get new quotes for them so that you have apples to apples across all the people that you've invited out. And so I'm providing you with these services for free. And the free quote is one free quote. If you want an additional free quotes, you're gonna have to pay for them. Like we give you one quote for free. And if you want two quotes, that second quote is $50. And you want three quotes, that third quote is $50. If you want four quotes, we start raising the price. That fourth quote's $100. Because really, I don't have time to just be a quoting shotgun. Because I'm not getting paid for free quotes. And therefore, we're going to charge for quotes. And if I've done a good job helping you build your ideal specification, there's no need for two quotes. How does that come off okay? I mean, I'm sure it needs a little bit of work, but.
Yeah, I mean, you and I have already talked about this before in the past. And so in retrospect, as I've had a little bit more time to process this appointment, I could have probably converted that to a comfort consult.
Right.
But I'm not comfortable doing that right now. I don't know. No,
and thank you for not converting it to a comfort consult, because ideally we get you through free quote and you naturally have all that you need from free quote that you can learn comfort consult through our training. And then if anybody says that our training doesn't automatically allow people to learn this stuff, I can tell them they're full of horseshit. because you've done it. And then the next, one of the problems is it's such a big lift to turn somebody into a comfort consult, and it's a much lower lift to turn somebody into a HVAC20 Free Quote salesperson. And so hopefully this will get you a good part of the way and makes that second step a smaller lift for the people who want to. And a lot of people are probably not going to want to, because this works really well.
Right. Yeah. So then, kind of in the end of the conversation, at the beginning of the conversation, he said, well, I guess I really want the most comfort that I can afford, which is pretty much what this whole process helps him figure out.
Right. And then you talk to him about, well, instead of having to replace two 13-year-old systems, maybe we could replace one because they're right next to each other.
Right. So the next thing that I did is we watched the duct pressure videos.
Okay.
Has anybody mentioned anything to you about static pressure? Has anybody tested your static pressure? No. Okay. Well, here's what it is. We showed the video. We watched the video together. Be glad to do this while I'm here. $25. Should have told him 25 times 2, since there's 2 units. I didn't even think about that until you said that. And he would have paid it.
Right.
He was fine. Anyway, so then we watched the 6 function video while he was in the watching mode.
Suddenly he's realizing he ain't all that comfortable.
Right.
I don't have any comfort issues. Oh, bonus room's uncomfortable. Oh, 6 functions. Oh,
Dust. Well, and okay, so then we go look at the equipment. He's got a scuttle hole, so I got to get the ladder. First thing that I notice is the downstairs thermostat's at 72 degrees, and the upstairs thermostat is set at 70 degrees, but the upstairs room temperature is 75 degrees.
and this is on a cold day?
This is a cold day.
Hmm.
So right away I noticed that he can't control his temperatures.
Right.
Unless he runs his air conditioning, and that's one of
Shoulder
the questions,
season, maybe he's got to cool the upstairs and heat the downstairs.
Right. And we did have that conversation.
He's got a low energy bill already, so why not? He's already told you he doesn't care about the efficiency of the equipment because he's got a low energy bill. So run your equipment to get your comfort. Right. Oh, I don't want to do that. What?
Right. So, look at the equipment. One of the things as a salesperson, it's, probably some of the guys that do the comfort consults are more technical than I am. They came from technical, being a service technician or whatever. So they can see things a little different.
Highly skilled, top of their game technicians and salespeople. So that was the other problem with what we were doing, is we literally appeal to the cream of the crop, and there just aren't that many. There's not that much cream out there. Most of the techs and install guys can't put more than 3 or 4 words together and can't read installation instructions and can't set the equipment up properly. And Jeff Howard was recently at this suspiciously gay duo company that not a single person in this $50 million a year company knows how to do external static pressure correctly, including the guy that trains how to do external static pressure. And Jeff brought this up, and one of the suspiciously gay duo took a burn to it and squeezed him out.
Hello.
Hey,
No, you're
Hey there.
Wait, you be at church. Oh, it's Friday. Never mind.
Maybe you take Joel's with you?
Hello. Oh.
She's gonna be embarrassed that this is in public. This is getting published to
Yeah, this is gonna be
YouTube,
on
so
the-
she's
on
on
YouTube
TV
in a
now.
minute, so.
Okay.
That's my son's girlfriend, or
Okay.
fiance, I should say. Yeah, so
We'll send her the
anyway,
link.
so yeah, that's right. So I'm in the attic, and as a salesperson, I want to capture as much information as I can as far as taking pictures of things that they've never seen about their equipment. I'll take the blower door off and take pictures of the blower wheel and how nasty it is, and the dust all in the compartment. 12-year-old air handler.
Let's stop here and punctuate this too. So this is a level up, a sales leveling up opportunity for people. If they take a bunch of pictures, like you take pictures, and then show it to people, because a lot of people haven't seen their equipment ever, if it's in a crawl space or an attic. I mean, because we have basements where we are, so people are familiar with their equipment. But so taking these pictures is really important, and taking pictures of dusty blower wheels, 3 weeks after their annual maintenance, where they're on this gold plan and pay $350 for this guys to come out once or twice a year, and that blower wheel's never cleaned. It's a way to suggest that the company that they're working with may not be all that concerned about helping the client. I'm sorry to stop you at each of these moments, but they seem to be teaching moments. So I hope it's not
Right.
throwing off your rhythm, but you're doing a great
Right,
job.
so let's let me just pull up at this picture here. I'm not sure how good it's going to look on camera there, but this is the blower.
Oh, geez.
And he
Yeah.
had just had his regular company service this equipment. And
not only did they not clean it, they didn't even vacuum
yes, yeah, so you said that you were having trouble with dust. I think the dust is getting through the filter. And he was mad that the company didn't even bring it up to his attention. He he thought that should be covered under maintenance. I said, well, they probably would, clean a blower wheel wouldn't necessarily be covered in the cost of maintenance, but they should bring it to your attention if it needs to be cleaned, because that indicates a filtration problem. And
well, and an efficiency of the equipment. Now it's not moving air efficiently.
Right.
And if it's an ECM blower, you're going to burn it out even quicker, easier, because it's going to try and throttle up even more.
Right. And so anyway, in the picture presentation, I'll show those pictures, and so as I'm up there in the attic, I'm having to quickly try to figure out, if it's what's going to fit in the attic, if we can make this into two, is the electrical wire big enough? I mean, these are all things that come a little easier to some of the guys with the technical mind. Yeah. And so that's where sometimes I get myself in trouble if I go too quick on that. Since there was two systems
is where
up there.
pictures come in handy too, because you can take it back to the office and show pictures to the technical guys, and they'll help you out.
Right. And somebody did set up the blower speeds correctly well, and the blower wheel was so caked on dirty it probably wasn't moving any air, but the static pressure wasn't bad because it wasn't moving any air. Yeah, clean the blower wheel, the static pressure is going to go up, I'm sure. So anyway, go back downstairs, and I actually ran out of time. So we had agreed to a lot of time, and the other guy had showed up the next appointment. But he was intrigued enough that he asked me if I could come back.
So in my mind, and I've been thinking about this a little bit, do you pivot to charging for that comeback?
Well, at this point, I hadn't even let him select his smiley faces.
Right.
And, you know, I think, again, in retrospect, I would have kind of insisted on a comfort consult, because really the best option is to put one system, and if he wants two systems, need to figure out what's going on with the house. But
So the way that I would insist on a comfort consult is I would ask him probably, are you sure you don't want a comfort consult? Because you got a lot going on here. And then if he said, yeah, I'm sure, say, I'm going to send you a video that explains what a comfort consult is, just so that you have the opportunity to understand it better, and so that your decision is definitely not because I didn't explain it well. So what you're doing is, everything you're doing isn't about selling him a comfort consult. It's about making him responsible for not selecting the comfort consult. And this is the mindset shift, right? The whole mindset shift is, I am not here trying to influence this person one way or the other. I am here as guide. I'm going to guide them to their ultimate perfect specification. And then we're going to try and figure out if they can afford that, or if they need to remove a smiley face here or there and go down to crappier equipment. And then from there, you give them a quote. And you've done so much for them, and they're sort of astonished by the experience, that you've built a great relationship. And because you're not like forcing them to make a decision they're uncomfortable with, typically they're going to want to do business with you, because everybody else has made them feel like they don't really care about that homeowner or solving that homeowner's problems. None of them talked about it. They just came in and said, what SEER do you want? As if that's some kind of a magical acronym.
right, and he said nobody mentioned anything about single state, two state. Nobody mentioned anything, and so he didn't really even have a good understanding what that is.
Yeah,
he just thought that meant it was more energy efficient and going to have more bells and whistles and cost more.
right.
He didn't start tying
It's
it
going to
to
save me
comfort until-
$75 a year, but it's going to cost me $5,000 to buy it. Who in their right mind would do something stupid like that?
Right. And actually, that's what we talked about. And then as we started relating it to comfort, and then that's when he said that he wants the most comfort he can afford.
Right.
And so he invited me back, ran out of time, came back the next day, and he had already watched the video a couple of more times, that 6 functions. And
it's that, here's the worm, no bite, no bite, no bite. Whoa!
and then like he was like, the first thing, that other guy that came out, he's like, he's a nice guy and all, but whatever he said to him might have been I think it was the person that was starting to bash the other company. He's like, we're not going to be the cheapest company out there. We're going to
That we're
more
not going to be the
expensive.
cheapest company is such a weak sales tactic. Such a weak sales tactic.
So then, we kind of lost a little bit of momentum because we had to split the appointment up. So I rehashed it. I rehashed the priorities, things that were important to him, and to get him back to that level. And he agreed with all those things again.
And so I'm going to punctuate here. Every time you go back, you revisit the understanding that you had of what happened beforehand. And then you ask them, is that your understanding of what happened beforehand? And then you make this move, which is between the last time we met and now, did anything change? Or did anything else occur to you?
Right.
Because that gap in there, if something changed, you're going to want to renegotiate all of your expectations so that you're both on the same page before moving forward. And this is filling the compartment before moving to the next compartment.
So in this case, we were talking about converting 2 units to 1, since the ductwork was already up there, and replace the supply plenums and trunk lines, and to make that happen. And his early objection was that, he likes having 2 units, so that way if one of them goes down, he still has some heat. And so we brought up the maintenance agreement, and we have, 3 tiers, but really the gold and the platinum. The platinum is same day service. And he said, well, that'd be the one I would choose. He said, well, how do you guarantee that you can do same day service? I said, I don't know. That'd be a great question for Jeff, our owner, one of our owners. And I'd have put him on speakerphone, told him who he was, introduced him. And he said, well, when you buy the better quality equipment, we found one thing: it doesn't break as often, especially if you have it maintained properly. And if you're a platinum member, you're moved to the top of the list. And we just try to move heaven and earth to make that happen for you, because it's important to you. And so they had a good little conversation, about that. And he was kind of expressing his frustrations with his current maintenance company about that blower wheel. And Jeff's response was that, we don't include blower wheel cleanings either, but we would have brought it to your attention and offered it to you, because that shouldn't happen. The blower wheel is not supposed to get dirty. So he kind of backed up everything I said without us ever even talking.
It's like I got a microphone on the back of my neck, and Jeff heard everything that we said. So
right. So that worked out good. So then that conversation was over, and then I bring up the version of this,
right. And that's the IRA I was telling you earlier, that circled frowny face. So when people say that they want equipment that qualifies for incentives, you can use this and say, okay, you understand that oftentimes the equipment that qualifies for incentives doesn't get you all the smiley faces.
Right. And because it was the next day, I was able to print off the 4 different equipment options.
Tailored the way you were going to get him down to his free quote from his choices. And
so ironically, the only ones that qualify for the IRA was the basic one that had all the frowny faces.
Okay.
And then the very best one.
Right.
And he was like, well, I don't want this. This is, this was the single stage. I don't want this. And then he goes and gets up and goes and gets his other quotes.
Right. Said, you won then.
Yeah. And he looks at him and he's like, every one of them is quoting single stage equipment. One of them is 14.3 SEER, the other one's 15.2 SEER.
That's what he told the guys. That's what he told them.
That's what he said he wanted. Yeah.
Like that's not those salespeople's fault. They're doing what he's telling them to. Anyway.
But he also mentioned to him that he had the dust and the other things that they just didn't hear.
Right.
But anyway, so he picked his equipment, and on there we have, you know, some price conditioning. And so he was like, these other companies were quoting 2 units for a lot less than you're just quoting 1 unit.
Yep.
I said, we can quote 1 unit, 2 units also. We probably, is that
You
what
might
you
be able to
want?
match their price on the basic units if you want two of those basic units.
And it actually was pretty close because, you know, over here on the basic side, the price conditioning I have in here was around $10,000. So multiply that times 2. I mean,
There you go.
there you go. Your other company was 18,000.
There's
So
not
it's
really a
not
whole
that
lot of
far off.
magic. They're not gonna, you know, in a competitive marketplace, people can't survive charging a whole lot more. So, and we're surviving, so we're not a whole lot more expensive, or we wouldn't survive.
Right. So on the equipment thing, let me see if I can find that real quick.
You're getting good at this Zoom stuff, aren't you?
I'm trying to learn.
Yeah.
Log back into this. What else? Yes, that'll be easier. All right. So and here's my equipment template. And this is where we were price conditioning, you know, so 10,000 times 2, you know, you're right there where they are. And he sees these faces. He understands that now. He's like, that's not what I want.
Right.
And so then we go down through these other ones, and I explain that, you know, how these are. And then we talk about the 5-stage being the most popular. And because we can do better load matching, we can do the reheat dehumidification, does a good job with the mixing. And he's looking at this number, he's like, that's a lot of money for 1 unit. And then
it feels good when they say that, doesn't it?
Sure.
Now, I mean, it used to be like, oh, I don't want to hear that. And now it's like, I feel your pain. I see you going through it. I'm just here to guide you. Which of these do you want me to quote?
Exactly. And so, and he, for some reason, the smiley faces weren't carrying over yesterday, but it's gotten fixed since then. But
lots of bugs.
Yeah. But anyway, so he wants the 4-inch media cabinet. He wants the fresh air. That's what he wants. So this is the package he wanted me to quote. And this is not exactly what I showed him. Okay, so because actually the pricing was
I see
like
that
3
you're
to
playing.
4.
I see how you're playing with that. That's awesome.
Yeah,
It'll
so it was
get
like
figured
$3,000 to
out.
$4,000 for this.
Yeah.
And anyway, so but then he was saying, so you're saying that we got to add this number and this one together? I said, well, absolutely, but we're also going to have to do duct modification. Well, how much is that going to cost? So anyway, ended up being around $26,000. And he went ahead and we pulled up the financing. We got him approved from that. And he's like, I'm just not ready to install this until after the first of the year because I'm replacing my knee next week. And I want to try to get recovered from that a little bit. And so as long as this equipment's still working, I'm not going to
Okay, so
do it
when
yet,
somebody
but I wanna
says
do it.
that, I would have a little conversation about Bidenomics.
Yeah.
You've seen what's happening with these Teslas and their tax credits. Like, just because this qualifies for the tax credit today doesn't mean that in 2 weeks it's still going to qualify for the tax credit. Who knows what they're going to do with these tax credits? So, I mean, do you have to tell them that? Probably not, but it feels like an opportunity to say, if next year this doesn't qualify for the tax credit, you're going to be mad at me or Joe Biden?
Well, I knew that we weren't in a position to be able to get it installed before the end of the year.
Anyway, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I knew that in the back of my mind. And my plan is and was to finish this report, to reiterate what we've discussed, make sure we're 100% clear on all that.
Right.
Which I think we are. And
right, but you're going to revisit. So for those watching, part of the HVAC20 process is to tell people what you're going to tell them, then have the meeting where you discuss it, and then tell them what you discussed as a revisit. Okay, so this is my understanding of the things that we talked about at our meeting. And that way what you're doing is you are positioning everything so if there's a misunderstanding, they need to reply to your email with what that misunderstanding is, or the misunderstanding is their problem, not yours. If that, right. So a lot of times I don't articulate these things very clearly, but basically responsibly avoiding responsibility is one of the key tenets of HVAC 2.0. And in order for that to occur, you need to make sure at each step that there's no mutual mystification. Like both sides are on the same page and the understanding of what was discussed and what's going to happen next.
Right. So
you're at the stage right now of putting together this is all what happened, and this is the free quote that you wanted. And let me know if anything's changed or I missed anything.
Right. He's already been approved by the financing. So generally speaking, it's been my experience that our local distributor sends out a letter in January saying they're going to raise prices a little bit. So at that point in time, I was going to say, look, we need to go ahead and get you on the schedule.
Right. Right. You get this thing booked and you're not going to get hit by a price increase, which, again, if you don't get this book, be ready for a little bit of a price increase, because we're going to pass that on to you if we don't have the equipment ordered at these prices. Anything else?
Yeah, so this is the slide that I show.
The war on
I'll post it on Slack so people can have it, but you may not recommend people do that because you don't want to start a political conversation, but
I don't think this is political. This to me, unless somebody works for, Energy Star, they created this department that's done a wonderful job in driving efficiency up I mean, light bulbs went from 100 watts to 13 watts to 6 watts. So that first step, they dropped 87 watts out of the thing, right? That second step, they cut it in half, but still only dropped like 7 watts. And how much more juice are you going to squeeze out of that orange? They're only 6 watts now. You're not going to save another 93 watts because they're only 6. And so what they're doing is they're getting to this point of absolute zero, spending more and more energy trying to save less and less opportunity.
So here's what that article says, pretty much, and I've printed that off and memorized it. But
yeah, you're gonna have to run your clothes through the washing machine twice to get them as clean as they get right now, and that's going to take 4 times as long.
It's going to wear out the equipment quicker. Whirlpool was very clear on that.
And use more soap. And
yeah. So and another thing the guy said was he was thinking about replacing his windows. So why are you thinking about replacing your windows? He said, well, because they're old and, you know, for energy efficiency. And I said, you know, there's good reasons to replace your windows, but energy efficiency is not one of them. And because you already told me you only spend $1,200 a year, you know, a good quality window is $2,000 to $3,000. And even if you got Home Depot to install them for you for $1,500 or $1,000, you got 27 windows. That's $27,000. I mean, he made it clear that all his windows work. He's not concerned about safety. There's no other reason. I said, well, that money might be better spent.
You're going to spend $27,000 on windows. You think it's going to save you $5,000 a year on your $1,200 energy bill? I'd love to see how that math works.
Because I said the payback, from what I understand, is somewhere between 50 and 500 years, depending on which window you choose.
Yeah, well, in that case, it's the payback is never, because this energy savings doesn't even pay the interest on the loan.
So that went away, and he 100% agreed that it would be better spent putting it towards better HVAC.
Yeah. So really, people would be a lot better off if they did the math, which is probably why they're not teaching math in school anymore.
Yeah.
Government doesn't want to, and this is political, but I don't think it has to do with either party. I think neither party wants us to be smart.
Right.
They just want us to be compliant and malleable and stupid. And it seems like they're doing a good job getting their wish.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, my
that's
wife
a
teaches
fantastic
6th grade.
And it's less than an hour long. Should we fill the other 10 minutes? Something happens if you go over an hour with these videos. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, my wife teaches school at 6th grade. Those kids, a lot of them can't read.
At
Some of
6th
them not
grade.
at all. In 6th grade. And everybody's like, how do they get this far? But people just keep pushing them along. They've gotten behind because of COVID. She is a special education teacher. But they've gotten behind because of COVID. They wore masks so long in some places where they couldn't learn the phonics, watching your mouth as you're talking, right. Reading. Wow. They can't count change. If you lay coins out on a table, they don't know what any of that is, and how you and how much it is. So it is a little sad.
How old were we? Weren't we like 1st grade when we learned to read?
Yeah, you should be. Yeah. kindergarten and first grade, you start learning. And because the teacher's reading to you and showing the illustrations and the pictures, and you're watching your mouth move, and I guess that's the phonics part, speech, whatever. But we have a generation that's lost a lot of that.
How are they going to get caught up?
That's the hard part, because it starts at home, and a lot of those families don't have a great home life, and so they're not getting help there. So the teachers are trying to do what they can to help them, but it's very difficult.
Living in a constant state of desperation, they probably don't have those books at home, and they're not getting read to at bedtime.
It's very difficult. But anyway, yeah, so just to reiterate about this appointment, I think that it was a great conversation. I enjoyed it. I can definitely see how once I fully embrace all of the free quote, that I can get quicker at it. And also, if there is a lot going on, how to ask and make sure he doesn't want a comfort consult, because we're really crossing into comfort consult territory in cases like that. So, and I mean, I've sold other products where the product was so good, you could present it in a way that the homeowner always wanted it. It's just, it came down to whether or not they could afford it. And in the past, with heat and air, a lot of these companies just turn it into a commodity.
Right.
And so it just comes down to price at that point. And everybody's a
15 to
pretty good
20-year
company.
decision. I want to make it in 15 minutes. Well, okay.
So, but now with this process, I definitely I am getting to the point where I feel like everybody wants it.
Yeah, it seems like
And
you're 6 for 6. People have been like, wow, these questions were never asked of me, and I'm incredibly grateful that you asked them, because it's really helping me understand that this isn't the decision about replacing my toaster oven. This is a much bigger decision with a lot more variables than I realized.
he did say that. He said, he asked me, you're asking a lot of questions and spend a lot more time with me. And I said, well, this is a 15 to 20-year decision. So, I mean, I want to help
Again,
make
if you
sure
make it
get
wrong,
right.
I want it to be your fault, not mine. I'm okay with you, whatever decision you make. I just don't want to be, I want to be blameless.
Yeah, that's excellent. So, yeah, it was a lot of fun. Need more leads.
Yeah, need more leads. I guess we can poke your owners right now and suggest that, my guys in Indiana are seeing 350 to 500 leads a year. And, if you run that many leads through this process, their revenue per lead is going to be really high. So the spending money to get those extra leads is going to come back, 6 to 8,000 is the typical revenue per leads that we're seeing.
Right.
And then in talking about revenue per lead, 3,000 is sort of the number where if you're not above that, you're a really good candidate to learn this process, because if you learn this process, chances are you'll improve to above 3,000. And if it doesn't help you improve, you're doing the wrong job, because you're just not good at this, and really shouldn't be doing it, because you're hurting. Below 3,000 revenue per lead, it's hurting the company. company's not making profit.
Yep.
The other thing, you and I had a conversation earlier with Eric, and it's becoming abundantly clear that likely load range is going to be a tremendously valuable asset to people in sales, because it'll help them have the conversation around load calc of the house. It'll have, the homeowner will have the ability to understand that without measured infiltration, a load calc has a lot of variance. And it'll show them that variance, like leaky houses this size tend to have a load over here. Tight houses this size tend to have a load over here. So it's likely that your load is somewhere between here and here, because that's what 90% of houses are. And so unless your house is an outlier, your load's somewhere in here, and we can narrow that in by measuring infiltration. And that's what the Comfort Consult offer is. Yeah, beautiful, thank you. So do you want to go through what your
Yeah,
presentation
so what we're
is
talking
on this?
about, so what we're talking about is, you know, you find the likely load range, and there's a
And
couple ways that
this
we
is going to be automatically calculated. That's one of our that's like the next update to the software is going to provide likely load range. But unfortunately right now, before we get to that, people are going to have to calculate it. And that's explained in onboarding.
Yep. And so we're and one of the things you're going to see too is a green, yellow, red inside that likely load range. And in this case, this client has a equipment that's just outside the range. And I would say something like, hey, I'm not here to give advice. This is just a free quote. But if this were my house, I would certainly pick a equipment size that's inside the likely load range. And I would even go a step further and probably pick something in this in the green range, because what that means, that's a house that's a good house. So you have good houses to bad houses. And when I'm talking about good and bad, I'm talking about leaky houses, houses that are leaky and maybe not have good insulation. So if you choose a equipment inside the green, and it still doesn't get you to the comfort level that you're hoping for, then you can have us come out and do the comfort consult. We can see what the house needs, and we can bring the house to where the equipment is. But if you choose equipment in the red range and then decide to fix the house, now you're going to be faced with a decision of you're going to have to replace the equipment again if you want to be comfortable. You might make the house worse. You might make your comfort levels worse if you choose equipment in the red range and fix the house.
Also, if you have static issues, leaning towards the green is more likely to reduce your risk on static versus leaning towards the red on sizing. So if you have me measure your static and your static's high, then that's another reason to lean towards the green, because your static's going to be lower if you size smaller.
Yep.
This is awesome.
So I think this is a great tool, because it's really the load is a range anyway, because you could have 3 manual J experts pull a load, and they're all 3 going to come up with something different.
Right. Good luck finding 3 people to come up with the exact same load.
Especially if they don't do a blower door.
Right. Right. Because they're going to have to guess infiltration.
Yep. So it's going to be in the range. Their house, their equipment it's going to be in the range. So this also helps with the client that has comfort issues and
It'll
thinks
correlate.
that, yeah, they think bigger's better. They think, okay, well, I'm uncomfortable. I need to go up half a size.
Yeah, you tell them, look, the thermostat's in this room. It's not in that uncomfortable room. It's in this comfortable room. It doesn't know that that other room's uncomfortable. So if you put bigger equipment in, equipment's going to run even shorter. That far ductwork ain't even going to get warmed up before the equipment shuts off, and you're not going to warm a room up if the air is going through cold ductwork, because air coming out of cold ductwork is going to be cold by the time it comes out. So your equipment's got to run long enough to warm up the ductwork first, and then it's got to run long enough to warm up the room. So short cycling equipment is absolutely not what you want. And then you go to the faucet example, or the fire hose versus a nice shower that you can adjust up and down. And
right. Yep. So this is definitely helping me explain that better. And the client, they're getting it. They're understanding.
That's
Use
exciting.
this
I think
with
this is going to be a very helpful video for folks. I hope.
Yeah.
Sort of ties it all together. You've done 6 of these now. And like, how many did it take before you sort of felt like you had it?
Well, I hadn't been nervous on a sales call in years and years. And I was probably a little nervous first couple of times because I was committed to doing this process. So, I mean, that was a little surprising to me because I don't get nervous usually. And then, so I would say after the second one, the nerves were gone.
Okay, so we got to tell people that you're going to do 2 of these and be uncomfortable.
Yep.
And then on your third one, it'll start making sense and you'll be comfortable and you'll be getting really good response from the homeowner. And so that'll feel good. Feel better than what you've ever experienced before.
Yeah, I mean, right now I feel like I can go help anybody.
It's a great feeling, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you for all your help.
Thank
We
you.
were stuck. We were totally stuck. So